everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode 4 of the Young Lion Cast. I am joined by Chris. How are you, Chris?
Fine. A few weeks ago, I saw someone on the train offer a blowjob for a ticket, and then turned up the ticket guy was gay, so it didn't go through. That was fun.
Did she get a ticket for Tenacity?
No, she was told she would just have to buy one when she gets to Waverley, because otherwise she wouldn't be able to get through the barriers.
The desperation when you are willing to give someone you don't know a blowjob because you haven't got a ticket. That's sad, that is. That's a bad day at the
What made it worse is that I audibly laughed and she was giving me evils for the rest of the...
How can she give you evil? She's just offered to suck a man's knob for a train ticket.
I'm very slightly regretting not wearing headphones right now.
Right, just for those who don't know, by the way, Chris's nan is currently in Chris's house, and now that I know he's not wearing headphones, I am going to do every single possible thing I can to make his nan come upstairs and go, "What's that noise, Christopher?"
She doesn't call me Christopher. Come on. No one calls me Christopher.
I am now going to call you Christopher.
You can't.
In the lieu of the fact that we are currently in the lull between King of Pro Wrestling, the show we reviewed on episode 3, which of course you can find in the archives, and Power Struggle, which will be taking place on November the 3rd, which we will review obviously on that Wednesday. We have got another one of our shows where we look back at 3 wrestling matches from Japan and basically review them. Again, at the start of our little run with the Young Lion Cast, I stressed that, since basically I've been watching New Japan Pro Wrestling since Wrestle Kingdom 11, as I imagine a lot of a Western audience were, but I've wanted to get more integrated into more Japanese matches, from All Japan Noah Stardom. And basically, we've done that by picking 2 New Japan matches.
Right. Right, so I give Rob a choice of 7 or 8 matches to pick from. And I throw in some familiarity there so he can pick one, but he'll know what's going on. No, this time he just went completely safe and then just also picked Meltzer's 6-star match because he's a mark. Fuck's sake, Rob, I'm trying to get you to expand your horizons and you don't pick the Joshi match. God damn you.
Yeah, so basically what has happened is the 3 matches that I picked was Meltzer's Splooge Fest, otherwise known as Misawa versus Kawada from Budokan in 1994, June 3rd, the infamous 6-star match, the first to officially break Meltzer's scale. We then move on to King of Pro Wrestling 2012, with the main event, the IWGP Heavyweight title match between Hiroshi Tanahashi, the champion, and Minoru Suzuki. And then we go a little bit more sort of left field, I suppose. We go back to the G1 Climax 24 back in 2014 with a Night 7 Block B match between the IWGP Heavyweight Champion AJ Styles and Minoru Suzuki. There seems to be a theme developing here.
You say it's out left field, but it was voted as the Observer Match of the Year. So
it was, and I got lost a little bit down the rabbit hole with this match, and I'll sort of explain why as we get there. But first, Chris, there's a little bit of news, and by little bit, I mean a massive, massive news. Okay? Are you ready for this?
Well, I already know what it is. I've been ready for a week now.
Yeah, anyone that follows New Japan Pro Wrestling at the moment will know that a brand new company has been, or a US-based subsidiary, as it's been announced, based out of California, has been announced by New Japan Pro Wrestling, officially called New Japan Pro Wrestling of America, which will launch operations in November this year. Now, basically, from what we understand, the establishment of this is basically they are creating a company in the United States, and this will run a semi-regular touring schedule similar to that of New Japan in Japan. And this will cover 5 key areas. The 5 key areas that they've highlighted is the West of America, which will be 6 cities across 4 states. The Middle of America, or the Mid-States, which is 7 cities across 6 states. Texas, which is just 4 cities. The Southeast, which is 6 cities across 4 states. and then the East, which will be 4 cities across 3 states, which, if I'm pushed, I imagine will be the 3 states, and 3 of the 4 cities that they ran for the Fighting Spirit Unleashed tour, so New York, Philadelphia, and Boston, I imagine. They also released the logo, which, to my recollection, that logo has been going around for months and months and months. It's literally just the New Japan logo with an American flag painted over the top of the lion. I don't know if you've ever seen the poster of, I think it's Extreme Rules 2014 or 2015, where John Cena's got the American flag painted on his face. It literally just looks like that.
What a weird thing to bring up.
For those who know, you'll see the parallel. Just a little bit more. They described the opening of offices in the United States basically as the 3rd phase in expanding their promotion overseas. Now, the first phase was the opening of the LA Dojo and discovering new wrestlers there. Phase 2 has been to run the actual events in the US. Obviously, you've had the G1 Supercard and the G1 opener in Dallas this year. And basically, they wanted to run independently and with a small amount of assistance from other promotions. So, of course, they ran Dallas independently, and they ran Madison Square Garden with the assistance of Ring of Honor. And this, of course, is going to be Phase 3, establishing a company within the US. And basically, it's been, and I quote, it's going to be ingrained in the everyday fabric when it comes to fans' wrestling consciousness. Now, New Japan also released quotes from their press conference with the New Japan Pro Wrestling of America CEO Takami Obari fielding a few questions. But before I get to that, Chris, what do you think of this?
If this launched in 2017, I feel it would be super hype.
However,
we now have AEW, which is filling a very similar niche. There's less of a market share for it now. And, like, we've seen a lot of wrestling companies sort of lose attendance. Like, Ring of Honor's definitely lost attendance. To be fair, part of it's Matt Taven. He's basically Baron Corbin of Ring of Honor. But, I don't know. Like, I'll watch it, like, because I watch New Japan anyway, but it's probably going to be, like, I already skip a lot of New Japan's calendar to begin with, and honestly, it depends how they integrate other stars, like who they bring over, who they have. Because they are going to have to bring over some of the Japanese stars. If we don't have some of them, like, it's going to just be a bit shit. Like, not that there's not some amazing talent on the American Indies, of course. There's loads and loads and loads, probably some loads we haven't even heard of. But at the same time, people aren't going to New Japan to see a Jonathan Gresham or a Brody King as good as we are. They're going there to see basically anyone but.
Yeah, so you're going to see Okada, you're going to see Naito, you're going to see Tanahashi. And from what I've seen, especially, you know, in the fledgling days of this company, the tours and the shows are going to be in lulls in the Japanese calendar. Now, are they doing that because they want to give the stars a rest? I mean, you look at the schedule, you look at the G1 and things like that, and, you know, World Tag League, you know, God forbid, and the best of Super Juniors. These people need rests, and if you're the IWGP Heavyweight Champion, you know, whoever that is after Wrestle Kingdom 14, they don't seem to get that big break apart from maybe the best of the Super Juniors. And to then say, right, you're going over to America to do even more shows, then, you know, you're going to risk burnout. However, on the other side of that, you are absolutely right. I don't tune into New Japan to see a tag match between the Kingdom and LIJ as the main event. Now, I understand that this is a completely separate company from Ring of Honor and whatever, but you look at the shows, the Fighting Spirit Unleashed shows that we mentioned earlier. Were there any main events, really, that were worth watching? No, but like that's the case with a lot of. That's one was just gone, isn't it? Fighting Spirit Unleashed. Yes, the ones in New York, Philadelphia, and Lowell.
No, not really. Like, honestly, the only reason I want to tune into one of them is because I've heard the new York crowd is completely unforgiving. But for the most part, they're like tag matches to sort of the house shows basically that weren't never meant to really be consumed, but they were consumed anyway.
Yeah. Well, let me give you the released quotes from the press conference, and then we'll talk about that. We'll digest it a little bit. So they asked Abari, can you give any details with regards to television rights? Obviously, this has been talked about since Impact and Anaheim, specifically their purchase of Access TV, obviously with the less than stellar relationship between Impact and New Japan. Abari answered, up to now, we have been working very well with our partners at Access TV and plan to continue doing so. As events increase in number in the US, we would like to be able to make more opportunities for fans to watch those events live and in real time on TV. And those are opportunities we're excited to discuss with TV partners going forward. So basically what I'm getting from that is, and tell me if I'm wrong, Chris, is that at the moment we're working with Access TV, but good God, we're entertaining other options.
Yeah, they probably have a contract with Access TV that they can't just pull out of.
I imagine so, but I mean, you look at the American shows this year, what have they done this year? They've done Fighting Spirit Unleashed, and we did this in the last podcast, but they've done Fighting Spirit Unleashed, they've done the New Beginning Tour in the USA, they did the Super J Cup, and they are doing the Super Showdown shows in the middle of next month. As far as I'm aware, not one of those aired live on New Japan World.
No. I think some of them are fighting. But to be fair, a lot of the crew, for Fighting Spirit and not for Fighting Spirit, for New Beginning, a lot of the crew weren't actually there. So that's fair, but they weren't streaming. But also I doubt anyone would have tuned into those shows.
Even so, you have a streaming service. Why are you not, especially if you are setting up a company in the USA, and you are absolutely right, had this opened in 2017, we'd have been a lot more hyped for it, because obviously at that point they would have had Omega, they would have had the Bucks, they would have had those big American names, which at the moment we are slightly lacking in. Because in 2017, obviously we had Omega as the US champ, and no disrespect to Lance Archer, who I love, and anyone who's listened to this podcast will know I love, but a Kenny Omega, he is not.
No. Also, even a loss of Cody is a big thing. Cody was probably going to be the centerpiece of that.
Yeah, much as he divides opinion amongst a lot of wrestling fans, he is a big draw in the United States. And much as people look back on his Japan run, and a lot of people see it as basically a vehicle for AEW, which I think is slightly unfair, but towards the end it absolutely was. I point you to Wrestle Kingdom 13.
Never let that go.
No, I won't. I'll never let that
Is
go.
that the year that Cody juiced one just because of what it represents?
It hasn't ruined my year. It was the worst match on the card, which didn't help. And I know Cody was working with an injury, but that's beside the point.
Agonishi and Yoshihashi happened.
Oh yeah, the New Japan Cup match, that was fucking terrible, that was.
Jesus Christ. And I was very tempted to go minus with that one, but then the Fiend versus Rollins happened. Jesus Christ.
But yeah, like I was saying, I mean, I don't know. I feel they need to get some way of streaming live. It doesn't seem right if you have got a streaming service to then wait 3-4 days, because if you are asking people now to buy them on Fight, they won't do it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not paying 40 quid for Royal Quest.
Exactly. Exactly. You look at the absolute fucking state of Royal Quest. How can you expect people to pay £40 for a show?
It was super weird because, I was actually quite hyped for Royal Quest because Suzuki and Okada always a good time, and it was a good time. But I was already paying for New Japan World. I felt a bit betrayed having being expected to pay an extra 40 quid for it, especially on a day where there was 2 other shows to worry about. One
of which I'd bought on Fight TV.
Yeah, and the other one of which was already on the network. And most wrestling fans, as much as we want to pretend we don't have the network. I mean, I currently don't have the network because, Jesus Christ, the state of that fucking app.
Yes, we know all about your issues with that app. Changing tack a little bit now. So the next question was, there's 3 questions that they've listed here, are what are your plans in terms of scale of events? And Abari answers, we're currently running and looking at venues in the 2,000-seat range. That may be lower depending on circumstances. We are a live event company, and the first priority of a live event company is to run in more venues. Once people are in those venues, then we can fire them up and have them ready to spread the word to larger and larger audiences. First, though, it's about growing the number rather than the size of venues. The long-term plan will absolutely be to run big venues on a regular basis. What do you think of that?
I think they're good, being realistic for what we can run. I think 2,000 actually might be a bit high. Like, I'm expecting them to draw maybe Ring of Honor numbers, maybe. And like 2,000 is sort of high end for Ring of Honor.
I agree with you. I don't know if you've seen any of the Super J Cup 2019, but one of the nights, and I can't remember which night it was.
Where it was like half empty.
That's what I mean. And that card had, you know, Ospreay, Phantasmo, Ishimori, you know.
We didn't promote the J Cup too well. I'm imagining they're going to go hard at promoting this until it becomes a bit more viable.
You would assume so.
Feel also when you see the state of their current of their next US shows, which I don't think has anything announced yet.
Nothing, but you can't announce things for those shows until Power Struggle's finished.
There,
which unfortunately leaves 6 days between and then you can't say, well, ticket sales have been bad. Yeah, well, that's because you haven't announced anything, because you're Intercontinental and you never open weight championship matches. You're not going to have an IWGP Heavyweight Championship match because you've just signed Ibushi and Okada to the first night at Wrestle Kingdom. You know, what are we going to have? I mean, we can't even get away with having the Golden Lovers taking on the Young Bucks, you know, and just sticking that in the main event because, you know, Young Bucks and Golden Lovers, you haven't got that anymore. You know, what are we going to have? GOD versus Evil and Sonata?
God, no.
Not again.
GOD versus Kingdom.
Oh, God. I think you're right with the 2,000 seat range. I think it is a touch high, especially to start off with. But, you know, they do note the fact that this is, you know, a little bit high and it may be lower depending on circumstances. I think if they put on good shows, they continually put out a good product, and they put out wrestlers that people want to see, and I think that's really, really important. You can't just have a match full of tag matches. You need the United States Championship. That's what this title was made for. That's the whole reason we had this tournament. You know, you can have never open weight defenses in America. You can have junior heavyweight championship matches can headline a show over there.
Yeah, because but there's a lot less of a stigma about that in America because junior wrestling is basically the style. So.
It's basically the American Indies, absolutely. The chance of you getting a heavyweight championship defense is little to none.
Yeah, maybe once a year. But my thing is also with this, like, are they going to have their own tournaments? Because, like, I'm not being funny, I can't handle another round robin.
No, I think that would be overkill when you think we've got the G1, and this is just their tournaments, not ones that I've watched. So I've watched this far.
This year alone, we have Tag League, J Cup, Super Juniors, G1, New Japan Cup, and I know I'm missing one, but I'm already up to 5.
Hang on, Super Junior Tag League, Best of Super Juniors, Super J Cup.
So I missed that, so that's 6.
It's a lot of tournaments. To then have ones in America as well, especially if it's a round robin like the G1 or the Best of Super Juniors, it's just not feasible.
No. Yeah. And also, like, I'm not one of those people, but if you're one of those people who exclusively watches Japanese wrestling, you also have, like, the Noah Junior League, their N1, the Champions Carnival in All Japan, the 5-Star Grand Prix in Stardom. You know, there's just too many tournaments going on.
There is, and don't get me wrong, I love me some tournaments, and this year's G1 for me went by in a heartbeat. It was a really, really good tournament, but, you know, do I want that 3 or 4 times a year? God, no, my head'll hurt. I don't know. I mean, as for the events, and I've mentioned this earlier on, the third question, the final question was, do you have plans for a certain number of events per year in the US? And Obari has answered, this is something that I'm discussing with Chairman Sugabayashi, but with 12 to 13 events running the calendar year 2019, I think we could be in the region of double that next year. So that is 26 events.
Well, that's basically an event every 2 weeks. That's not awful.
It's not, especially if they're going to be doing, they're going to be mirroring the New Japan model. So touring it and, having, I don't know, say they do, let's say a New Beginning, for example, and do 3 Road to New Beginning shows and then 1 New Beginning in Texas show or something like that. That's not too bad. That's fine. You don't get overkill then. But I don't know. I just think it's a lot of wrestling, and New Japan's history of promoting stuff in America, especially this year, is not exactly great.
It's definitely went downhill. Like, we really should have struck from behind this hot, but then infrastructure probably wasn't there.
I think there's been a couple of things. I think overall the expansion's been okay. I think, if you were giving it a mark out of 10, I'd probably give it a 6.
Maybe a 7.
Yeah, but it could have been so much more.
Then you look at, I think we've been very overambitious sometimes, because we saw that Madison Square Garden on Mania weekend and then assumed they could do it again on a non-wrestling weekend over on the other side of the country, where it's a bit less of a... Like, it's much harder to get places in California than it is in New York.
Yeah, no, I agree. I also think, going back to my previous point, they've got to change the way they book things. They cannot expect people to buy things on the name alone repeatedly when you are not getting a card for, until 6 days before the event. It just can't happen.
If it's its own separate brand, I doubt they'll do that. Like, if it's their own separate brand, I'm sure they'll have their own team, their own little roster that they'll run. Because they're only running a show every 2 weeks. They don't need a massive roster. I mean, Stardom get away, like, I hate to bring up, but, like, as an example, Stardom only gets away with, like, 30 wrestlers, and then, like, we bring on a couple guests every tour.
We will wait and see. We'll see what happens. It's exciting news, and good God, it's so exciting to be a wrestling fan at the moment, with everything that's coming on.
We scrutinise it, but, like, at the end of the day, if it's more good wrestling, everyone wants.
Exactly. We're merely scrutinising, we're silly, picking it apart because, we want them to succeed. Good God, I want them to succeed. And I just feel like with the American expansion and with certain shows, not all the shows, the G1 Supercard was fantastic. But you look at the advertising, for example, for the G1 Climax show. Okay, the Royal Quest show sold out in, God knows how long, or did extremely good numbers. But the G1 Climax show in Dallas, because it wasn't very well advertised, because there wasn't any names announced, you'd got little to nothing, or very, very few tickets sold for a very long time. So I'm just conscious, that's all.
Yeah.
Should we get into our matches then, Chris? Our 3 matches.
We probably should put a time limit on.
Maybe we should. I'm going to start with the match that I've watched most recently. And basically, good God. We're talking about the All Japan Pro Wrestling Super Power Series 1994 match. Night 16 from the 3rd of June 1994 from the Budokan in Tokyo, Japan. We are, of course, referring to the main event, the Triple Crown Championship match, with Misawa, I said that very strangely then, Misawa, the champion, defeating... I
thought you were about to say Misawa-san. I'm like, oh, fuck, you went full.
Misawa, the champion, defeating Kawada in 35 minutes and 50 seconds with possibly the most disgusting-looking Tiger Driver I've ever seen. Holy fuck, Chris.
It's called the Tiger Driver 91.
The Tiger Driver 91, yeah. Jesus Christ, man.
Right, first, I do really enjoy how you didn't even bother to try and do their first name. You're like, nah, I'm out.
Oh, no, I just assumed. I'm sorry. Mizuhara Misawa and Toshiaki Kawada. Happy?
I'm never happy.
I know. So, I mean, this match is famous, obviously, as the match that Meltzer broke his scale for 6 stars. And to my knowledge, it is the first match to ever break that scale. Now, I came into this match with a little bit of apprehension. I'd heard how good this match was, and I thought, 6 stars, really, for a match from 1994? Am I going to be a little bit disappointed? And no, I'm really, really happy, but no. There wasn't any ridiculously over-the-top high spots. there wasn't anyone coming over the top rope, doing planches and, topes and things like that. Possibly the highest risk move, especially early on, was as Misawa came off the ring apron and Kawada took him out of the air with this elbow that echoed around the arena.
Some that was pretty fucking disgusting.
I think we can safely establish that Kawada is, what's the word? A twat is the word I'm looking for. The man...
He used to be a good boy.
Honestly, the man is vicious. The man is... I mean, early on in the match, and I'm talking, 4 or 5 minutes, Misawa's ear is pissing blood. Not from a cut on it, it's pissing from inside his ear. Chris, I don't know if you've ever had your ear bleeding. I know I haven't, because I'm not an absolute maniac, but it added to the match.
Oh mate, wait until you see the Akira Taue Kawada match. Jesus Christ.
I mean, you've got two completely different methods. You've got Misawa working from underneath, because at this point, at the start of this match, he's on top. Okay, he's showing off. He's beaten Kawada before, twice before, in fact, in this title reign. He's had this title felt for...
He flips over the ropes and doesn't dive on him, because, he can get away with that.
Exactly. He's almost arrogant with it, and he's had this championship now for 18 months, and he's beaten Kawada twice. However, Kawada has just won the Championship Carnival, or the Champions Carnival, Championship Carnival, which is something that Misawa hadn't done to that point. But there was an air in that arena that Kawada could win the belt.
Yeah.
He was a legitimate contender in this match. And I think that it's always more of a dramatic match if you don't know who wins. It's just wrestling 101. I mean, me and you talked last week about the main event between Sanada and Okada, and I got caught up in the post-match with Sanada finally showing that emotion and crying, and I get perhaps I exaggerated the mark we gave it. That's absolutely fine, but I think that match suffered from the fact that there was not a cat in hell's chance that Sanada was winning.
Yeah, that's sort of the problem with New Japan's overall booking. It can be very obvious on especially B shows who's going to win.
Exactly. However, this, I mean, especially that final few minutes, just that brutality in the strikes, just you had no idea who is going to win.
Those fucking elbows.
Oh my god, the elbows. Oh my god, the elbows.
Well, I do like, even in this match, so it's quite a long match. It goes close to 40 minutes.
It does.
And but what's wrestled, but even the wrestlers felt like people were popping for them because they could win. Like Kawada, you felt like Kawada or Misawa would win on one of these sleepers. Like literally anything could have beaten him. Like, because King's Road's one of those things where they use. And I know, especially, like, Garth doesn't approve of, like, finisher kickouts, but the way the King George style does it is quite good, where, like, any of these moves can win a match, but they're not set in stone finishes. And, like, big guys like Misawa and Kobashi will have, like, these super moves, which we saw at the end of this match, where, like, but no one kicks out of them.
No, I agree. I don't think the fact that Misawa kicked out of like the jackknife powerbomb and the fact that Kawada kicked out of the Tiger suplex, I don't think that took away from the match. I mean, if anything, it told a story because Kawada had been put away twice with the Tiger suplex, and the fact that he kicked out of it added that another layer to the match to say, fucking hell, he's going to do it, finally.
You did research. I'm so proud of you.
Honestly, I loved this match. It was such.
It was. Do you see why I rave about this period of wrestling now?
This is my jam.
Yeah, no, like what? Two big men knocking lumps at each other. Yeah, no. That's what this period was, and just. Do you like how they do, even like, for example, Misawa's frog splash isn't pretty, but it still looks like it hurts?
It's gritty as fuck. I mean, at one point, and yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Kawada came off the top rope to hit a knee drop because Misawa is obviously targeting Kawada's knee, and Kawada, by the way, possibly the greatest selling of a knee injury ever.
Oh,
Okay,
amazing.
I'm just putting that out there. And then you've got Kawada just... Once he realised Misawa's ear is bleeding, and obviously that can't be a work, obviously, because how would you know that you're going to burst your eardrum, which is apparently what happened. Kawada is then just attacking the ear and the neck and the head of Misawa. And it just, you've got that, I just loved it. But this knee drop that Kawada had and came off the top rope with landed straight. I don't know whether it was just the shoulder or the neck, but it looked horrendous.
Thing about this match, nothing, like, one move didn't flow into another. There'd be a move and there'd be a down period of maybe like 30 seconds and then another move would happen. But, like, you were so caught up in it, but, like, that you weren't looking for fluidity. It's like, I was about to say less Japanese fans, but, like, this is a Japanese wrestling podcast, what the fuck would you be doing here? But, like, the Cody Dustin match from Double or Nothing, where there'd be long periods of, well, nothing, but that added to the drama of the match.
Yeah.
Like, this is a very different best match of all time than Kenny versus Okada. Actually, this basically has none of the problems brought up from Kenny versus Okada match. Where it's like, it's all too fast and the beginning doesn't mean anything. Because even the beginning, stuff set up at the beginning would play into the entire match. So...
Yeah, exactly. Just a great match. It's beautiful in its brutality because, again, Kawada just beats the ever-loving shit out of Misawa and still couldn't get the job done. Misawa took so much punishment. And I loved what you said earlier, Chris, before we move on, because I am conscious of how much time we spent on each matches in these. I loved how the start of this match, they fed on sort of the atmosphere, and they didn't. I don't think they locked up for the first 35, 40 seconds. They just sort of.
It was like a proper Hogan Rock moment. It's like why I sort of laugh at people when we go, there's no pageantry in Japan. It's like, well, Misawa and Kawada basically just looked at each other lovingly for 45 seconds.
I don't think Kawada's ever looked at anything lovingly, Chris.
Good point, but you have talked about how he abused Tai Chi on commentary, so
it's quite sad in a way that All Japan, which was possibly the hottest wrestling ticket in the world in the early, in that period, 93, 94.
New Japan runs Budokan 3 days a year at the end of the G1, and it was All Japan's. It's All Japan's. It's basically their Kurikan. Like, they still run shows at Kurikan, but it's like they'd run about as many shows in Budokan. It's ridiculous.
I know. And you look at All Japan now, and again, I spoke to you about this. All Japan have just run their, I think it's called the Royal Road Tournament, and the final between Miyahara, who is the champion and basically their ace, a fantastic wrestler, was taking on Jake Lee in a rematch from their absolutely outstanding Champions Carnival match.
Wasn't quite as good, but like that's not what we're here to talk about. The point is, they struggle to sell out Kurikan nowadays.
I'm not joking, Chris. The turnout was almost embarrassing. It was floor only seats, and there was visible empty seats.
Where was
and
it
this
held?
Is All Japan. Off the top of my head, I can't remember.
So it wasn't. I know it wasn't Kurikan.
I'll have a quick look for you now.
If Kurikan, I'm gonna look stupid, but like.
No, it wasn't Kurikan. It was a far smaller venue. So the Royal Road Tournament, night 6, with the final, which was Jake Lee finally defeating Kento Miyahara. Good match, 24 minutes. It was in Nagoya International Conference Hall.
Oh, I'm pretty sure Stardom runs there and like does decent.
Yeah, it was. It says that the attendance was a smidgen over 1,000. It did not look like there was 1,000 there.
It is sad. It is really, but All Japan did have like 3 mass exoduses. So
true. I mean, Chris, we're giving this match a 10, aren't we? I mean, there's no way we can give it to anything else.
There's absolutely no argument for me giving this a 10. Would you believe me if I said it's not even my favorite
All Japan 90s match.
Well, it's weird you should mention that, actually, because I've actually read, when I was doing some research on this match, I actually read that people prefer other Kawada Misawa matches, and I was like, how the fuck is there better matches?
People, like, when you first go into, like, the King's Road stuff, like, you just imagine it was Kobashi and Misawa who were, like, the big thing.
Yeah.
But, like, that sort of while we did fight a lot in All Japan, that sort of waited until Noah, really, because it was Kawada and Misawa that were the massive thing. Yeah, that's the thing. It's one of those, it's like Omega versus Okada, where, like, any one of them you can say is the best one. And, like, for example, my favorite Omega Okada match is the G1 one.
Yeah. And mine's Dominion.
Yeah, no, well, which one? Which Dominion? The second one.
The second one, by a mile.
No, that one like has objectively amazing. Like anyone could say any of the Kenny Omega Okada matches. That's the same with Misawa and Kawada. It's just like, yeah, I get that. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I think commentary helps as well, and the commentary that Don Callis, the fact, everything that he added to that Dominion 2018 match was absolutely sensational. And to be honest,
matches wouldn't be half the matches they were for me without Callis' stuff, because he actually makes Kevin Kelly good.
Well, and the commentary team is actually something that I didn't mention in the Misawa and Kawada match. I know that it's in Japanese, and obviously we don't speak Japanese.
But it was so the guy was losing his voice. It was like JR at the end of a WrestleMania.
And how much did that make you invest, even more invested, if possible, into this match?
Yeah, no, the fact that we just shout stuff. Like, I was going to do my Mariato impression again, but I don't trust to explain all that is to my nan.
However, it's funny you should mention Mariato, because that is possibly the greatest segue into the match that we're going to look at next. Now, we're going now to the G1 Climax 24 from the 1st of August 2014, Night 7 from Korakuen Hall. With an attendance of 2,015. Now, this was back when, rather than doing blocks on alternate nights, they did full block matches. So there's 10 singles matches, which is, good God, that's hard work.
To be fair, they did that during the Super Juniors and G1 this year as well.
They did it during the Super Juniors. They did it for the Korakuen shows.
They didn't do that for G1, though.
They did not do that at the G1, no.
So it blurs together for me, sorry.
It does, but of course that does mean that there were only 12 nights to the G1 Climax 24. There was 19 for the G1 29. But again, there was also more people in the G1 29. So, however, that's not what I'm here to discuss. Basically, there was many people who said for a long time that this was the best night of G1 wrestling. Now, you might think that is very brave of these people. However, Chris, I mentioned earlier on the podcast I got lost down the rabbit hole of G1. And what I meant by that was, when I realised that the match we are going to be looking at was the 8th match on the card, which was a Block B match with AJ Styles taking on Minoru Suzuki. But the semi-main event, okay, so the match after this was a Block A match between Yuji Nagata and Katsuyori Shibata. Which I realised was next, and I thought, yeah, I'll watch that. Absolutely incredible. Brutality. Absolute brutality. Yuji Nagata at this point is, close to 50, and is just, you would have no idea, apart from to look at them, you would have no idea that Nagata is so much more Shibata's senior. They both go at it. And yes, you can argue that this is Nagata's game completely, beating the shit out of someone. But holy shit.
That.
Pardon?
Someone younger at him than that.
Exactly. It was a great match, and I gave it 9 stars.
It's actually funny in Five Pro Wrestling, just very quickly in the story mode, every time your character would say something good about himself, Nagata would hit him in the back of the head and tell him not to be cocky.
Love it. I imagine that's exactly what Nagata's like in real life. However, I didn't stop there, because the match that came on next was the main event, and this was the Block A match with Shinsuke Nakamura defeating Tomohiro Ishii. Now,
this sounds like your wet dream.
Honestly, Meltzer gave So, the last 4 matches, Makabe defeating Tetsuya Naito got 4.25 stars from Meltzer. AJ Styles versus Minoru Suzuki got 4.75 stars from Dave Meltzer. Nagata and Shibata got 4.5 from Dave Meltzer. And then Nakamura taking on Ishii got 4.75 from Meltzer. It's got a cage match rating of 9.21. And the reason that I transitioned into it is because the amount of times the commentary team shouted Lariato as Ishii smashed Nakamura out of the air, off his run-up. There was one point where Nakamura is doing his, where he does that, before he goes into the Kinshasa, or the Bomaye is at that point. There's one point where he's hanging onto the ropes and he's got his arm down and he's doing all this pageantry to the crowd. And Ishii just appears from nowhere and drop kicks the fuck out of him. It's brilliant.
We need to watch more Ishii matches for this.
Now, I will just also say this night had a match between Tenzan and Goto, which got 4.5 stars.
This must have been when Tenzan could still move.
It had a match between Bad Luck Fale and Honma that got 3.5.
Honma carries Fale, what can I say?
Apparently. And a match between Kojima and Benjamin that got 3.25. Now,
I forgot Benjamin was in New Japan. Anyway, go on.
You look at that night of wrestling. Fucking hell. What a night of wrestling. And
unbelievable.
It really is. I mean, I gave the Nagata Shibata match a 9. I gave the Nakamura Ishii match a 9. They're both really good matches that I actively encourage you to go and seek out on New Japan World because they are just that good. However, they're not the matches we're actually here to look at. We are looking at the 8th match on the card, the G1 Climax Block B match, with AJ Styles, who is the current, at this time, IWGP Heavyweight Champion, on 8 points, defeating Minoru Suzuki, who is on 6 points, on 16 minutes and 20 seconds with the Styles Clash. Chris, opinion, please.
Remember back in our No Mercy review where I think it was FOW or Fightful or something who said about RVD versus Flair, it's like oil and water mixing, not to make something beautiful but just a mess?
Yes.
This was water and oil mixing to make a fucking rainbow.
I agree with you, man. I agree with you. There's
on paper, this should not actually work. Like, on paper, nothing about this should work, but it does, and it's beautiful.
There's a moment where AJ Styles comes up, springboards off the top rope for a phenomenal forearm, and Suzuki catches him seamlessly into an armbar.
It was beautiful. And then, they brawl into the crowd, and there's an actual woman actually screaming.
There's a woman genuinely fearing for AJ Styles' life.
Being fucking there. So was I, and I know he lives.
Exactly. You've got Suzuki putting Styles' arm through the opening in the chair and bending it upwards. And I'm sorry, I don't care who you are, your arm don't bend that way.
No one answers. Well, Alexa Bliss's does, but she's a special case.
She is a very special case.
Also, some of the PKs in this match from Suzuki, I forgot he could kick that fucking hard.
It looks like, obviously in this and the later match, he's got a lot more weight to him than he does now.
Oh yeah, now he looks like... I'm not going to... Anything I can say is offensive, so I'm not even going to.
Well, let's put it this way. I think he looks like he's aged a bit, as he does, because that's how time works.
My granddad would look at him and go, need to pie in him. So...
but yeah, you're absolutely right. The PK's fucking hell. Suzuki just works Styles' arm the entire time. There's a brilliant moment where Styles uses one of the chairs of the crowd to come up over the top and hit a phenomenal forearm, even though it's not called that at the time in New Japan.
It wasn't even like a signature move. It was just something he did.
It was just something he did. And if you think, and Chris, you said this to me, and I was, I wasn't skeptical, but I was like, yeah, all right. If you haven't seen AJ Styles in New Japan, and your only exposure to him is in the WWE, which mine was, apart from the odd TNA match, Jesus, you need to go and watch him in New Japan because the
Between
man works at such a pace.
The Tanahashi matches, the Okada matches, they're just amazing. They're all great.
He worked here. There was a moment when Suzuki was coming off the ropes and coming full tilt at him, and Styles was literally lapping him. It was incredible.
And obviously, he went to WWE because it allows him to slow down, and I do respect that.
He's still one of the best workers, and he's probably working at 70%.
Dude, this is AJ at 50. This is AJ on fucking autopilot, man.
Which is incredible, the fact that he can still be WWE's best worker.
Let me put it this way, in the Cena matches, he's working at about 70.
And they are good matches. I don't care who you are. They are great matches.
The Rumble is a 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I agree.
But anyway, some other great stuff. A powerbomb attempt counted from a kick attempt into a fucking Styles Clash, into an ankle lock, and then we just started fucking rolling through and ankle locking each other.
It was beautiful, and you're right, Chris. It shouldn't work because you've got Minoru Suzuki, who's quite old.
It's like if Kurt Angle had sex with someone who can also break your arm.
I don't know how it's like that, but okay. What?
It's like if Kurt Angle had sex with a monster that he used to have a recurring nightmare about as a child.
Okay.
But I'm going to have a nightmare about that now.
Yeah, so am I, mate. We had your typical interference. We had Gallows and Anderson coming in to save Styles from Taka Michinoku, which I thought was hilarious. That both Gallows and Anderson needed to come out to save Styles from Taka.
To be fair, I think it might just be the case of, right, which one of us are going to be?
Yeah.
Kick the ass of Taka Michinoku. I mean, you know that bit in it was a DreamWorks, I forget what it's called, but we just go, both. Yeah, both is good. I'm just...
Then Killer Elite Squad appear and beat the shit out of the club, and they run off, and then we continue with the match. The Styles Clash that you talked about, where it was almost a desperation Styles Clash, one-armed.
He did them every so often, and they do look great.
It worked into the story. One thing I am such a fucking mark for is when an injury plays into a finish or plays into a big moment in the match. Yeah. Suzuki had spent so long working that arm, had spent so long with it locked in triangle holds, locked it in these grotesque positions on the mat, with AJ making the most realistically agonizing screams. He locked it in a chair, for fuck's sake, and made a woman scream. And the fact that he couldn't get his arm round to perform that Styles Clash was brilliant, because it added to it. There was story there, and that's what I love. And again, it's the G1. You've got no fucking idea who's going to win. It doesn't matter if Styles is the champion. You have no idea who's going to win.
Yeah, except upsets happen in the G1. It's pretty much how Suzuki gets half his title shots.
Well, exactly.
And just, I can't say enough good things. We are also very aware of how much time we have left.
It's all right if we go slightly over. It's fine. But yeah, eventually AJ manages to rally, hits Suzuki with the Styles Clash, and walks away the victor.
My favourite thing in this match was when Styles ducked and dived away from Suzuki's punches enough to hit a Pele, and then because Styles was on the ground, Suzuki had enough time to recover and just kept beating the shit out of him.
I enjoyed Suzuki's slaps that got harder and harder and harder until he just thought, you know what, fuck it, and hit him with a stiff right hand.
Yeah.
Brilliant. The only thing that I don't know if I can do is, can I give this a 10 or a 9? And I need your help with that. What are you giving it?
The interference served no purpose.
Absolutely no purpose whatsoever.
But also, it didn't drag me out of the match.
No, I think it was short enough that it didn't matter.
It's just what Suzuki Gun and Bullet Club do, and it's not like Tamatonga where the matches are a bit dog shit around his G1 bullshit.
No, fair enough. I agree.
Honestly, I think I need to give this a 10.
I'm fine with that.
It's amazing.
Now,
Oh my god.
I will say that the final of the G1 was Shinsuke Nakamura, taking on Okada.
Yeah, this is the one in the dome.
Yes, and you
But-
gave that 10.
In fact, we need to. I was in the options at some point, I think, and I think we do need to review that one at some point because that is a great match.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. But yeah, if you are, if you've got a few hours free, I actively encourage you to find Night 7 of the G1 Climax 24 from the 1st of August.
Believe it or not, I haven't seen that Ishii match, so I'm going to go watch that.
It's great. It's fantastic. And again, the Shibata match and just Shibata Nagata is absolutely amazing. I am actually tempted to go and watch the Naito versus Makabe match because, good Makabe is decent.
This is pre Ingobernable as well.
Yes, it is. It is. Because
this is before the G1 before I started watching.
Yeah, because who wins G1 25? Is that Tanahashi?
Yeah, because Okada was champion and then Tana got but it was basically a role reversal of the year before.
Of course, because Shinsuke, people were like, why is Shinsuke leaving New Japan Pro Wrestling? Well, you look at it, he lost the final of the G1 Climax 24 and 25. So, probably thought, yeah.
and now he's a knacker.
Now he's just, I don't think he's shit, I just think he's stopped trying, and why would you when you're getting the paycheck he's getting?
True.
Right. Chris, that takes us to our final match, and this is another Suzuki match. We're talking, of course, about the first King of Pro Wrestling event, which is actually labelled the New Japan 40th Anniversary King of Pro Wrestling, from 2012, the 8th of October 2012, from Ryogoku, with an attendance of roughly 9,000. Now, this card, Chris, we've got some really, really good matches and then some fucking bizarre matches. So, we opened up...
This is 2012 and they're still rebuilding.
Exactly. I mean, the opening six-man tag, we've got Strongman. I'd forgotten about Strongman and Muscle Orchestra. Fucking hell, they were a thing.
Love it.
Loki defeated Kota Ibushi for the Junior Heavyweight Championship. That got 4.25 stars. We had Killer Elite Squad defeating Tenkoji for the tag titles, which I do not want to see ever. A singles match. This was a singles match with Yujiro Takahashi defeating Tetsuya Naito by ref's decision.
I'm pretty sure this is when Naito got injured as well.
It is when Naito got injured. He didn't get injured during this match. He was injured already, and this was to sort of write him off. And he was written off until Dominion 2013.
And then he'd get a title shot.
Yeah, and then fucking hell. We've also got just a random tag team match between Laughter 7, which is Shibata and Sakuraba defeating Makabe and Inoue. This is the match that...
The team of Sakuraba and Shibata just slightly scare you.
The fact that they're called Laughter is ironic.
If Suzuki was in there, you could see it.
Yeah, that would... Oh my god, Jesus. But this is the thing now. The third to last match on the card is a 4-star rated match by the Wrestling Observer. Cage Match gives it 8.31. It was an IWGP Heavyweight title number 1 contendership match. Now, have you seen the full card for this match, Chris?
Is this Anderson and Okada?
Carl fucking Anderson!
Carl Anderson was the most over Gaijin at the time, apart from Devitt.
Carl fucking Anderson!
Okay, he was actually... Have you seen his finals?
Carl Anderson!
Have you seen his G1 final match against Okada?
Chris, Carl Anderson.
Carl is really good. And again, this is 2012. We didn't have an Omega on Devitt, wasn't Devitt yet.
Carl Anderson.
Right, fucking... Don't knock it till you've watched it, Rob.
Is in a number 1 contendership match for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship.
Carl Anderson is really good.
Carl Anderson.
He's really good.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about Carl Anderson, more's the pity. We
I'll
are
be
here
next.
to talk about a match that Meltzer rated Match of the Year. It was the first 5-star match that New Japan had been given in, I believe I read somewhere, 15 years.
Yeah, because New Japan, like during the 90s, sort of, and especially during the early 2000s, really leaned into the martial arts thing, which led to some legitimate looking matches, but not necessarily good matches.
No, and again,
But no.
to go 15 years without getting a 5-star match from Meltzer in Japan is pretty much unheard of. But the fact that this match did get it is, testament to how fucking good it was. And of course,
I listened to an old Observer Radio about this match, and he was like, "Oh, this might be the greatest match I've ever seen" at the time.
I mean, we're talking about the IWGP Heavyweight Championship match with Hiroshi Tanahashi, who's the champion, coming in, defeating Minoru Suzuki, who's had a fantastic episode of the Young Lion cast, in 29 minutes and 22 seconds with a high fly flow. First of all, not a massive fan of Tanahashi's theme music.
No, I prefer his new. Like, I remember people didn't like the Go Ace theme, but I love it.
I really like the Go Ace theme because it's the only theme I've known for Tanahashi, and just that. It reminds me for some strange reason of Wrestle Kingdom 12. I don't know why. It's just, I don't know. But yeah, I'm not a massive fan of his old theme. But good God, I am a straight man, Chris. As you, well, I wasn't in Blackpool, but that's for another episode.
So you go along with the Blackpool jokes only when my nan's here. Okay.
Come on, Nana O'Brien. Come on, Nana O'Brien. This Tanahashi is an absolute stud.
He is a superstar. I remember when I first saw him, it was on a Ring of Honor show of all fucking places. And they were like, "This man is an absolute superstar in Japan." I'm like, I believe so. I mean, I say this about a lot of wrestlers, but I would.
Yeah. He is just the reception from the crowd is ear-splitting. And this man, he carries himself like a superstar. And again, this is Tanahashi who's had to drag New Japan kicking and screaming out of that awful, awful rut they were in the mid-2000s.
You know what it was like? It was like if Liverpool won the Championship League in Liverpool with John Lennon as their main striker.
Right, okay. It's the Champions League.
Right, okay, I'm sorry. I don't watch football.
Okay.
I regret the analogy, all right?
No, I'm really proud of you. I am really, really proud that you tried a football analogy and almost got it right. I mean, it is a bit like that, in a way. It's probably your best analogy of the night. Which isn't saying a lot, because the last one you said was, it's a bit like if Kurt Angle fucked a monster he'd been having nightmares about.
Right, I was 5 when I had the nightmares, all right? But anyway.
This match, Chris. What a fucking match.
You know what I love most about this match, Rob?
Go on.
How many near falls were there?
Not a lot.
None.
I was just going to say, I don't think there were...
There were none.
Were there really none?
It was all submissions. It was all selling.
Wow. And we talked about Kawada earlier in the night. Suzuki's selling of the knee injury, and also the fact that, I mean, I know that the dragon screw, everyone sells it by spinning round like a top. Suzuki, Tanahashi hits the dragon screw and just, he stood there and his knee jarred, and you felt the agony.
No, exactly. Like, it's very hard to feel sorry for Minoru. Like, I feel like he could kill a gibbon by looking at it, but
probably has.
It's probably just it's how he makes lunch. But
gibbon sandwiches.
Yeah, the way he makes gibbon between fucking chewed up Joshi wrestlers, but the way it's like. It was so awkward. It was so staggered. He didn't sell anything nicely or safely, but at the same time, he wasn't being unsafe. It was just, I can't. In 2012, people were popping for a figure 4. In fucking 2012.
Yeah. And that figure 4 that Chris is referring to must have lasted for 3.5 minutes.
It was a long fucking figure 4.
And do you know what? I wasn't bored in it because there was a point where I was like, Suzuki's actually going to tap here. And the fact that Tanahashi had done all that work with the dragon screws, with the figure 4s, with the knee bars to Suzuki, who we now know is a submission expert, and just constantly brutalized that knee. And you genuinely felt like Suzuki was in pain. You genuinely felt like, geez, he actually done damage. And I mean, we go back to the start of the match. Suzuki almost attempts to try and out-wrestle Tanahashi, which is immediately a mistake. However, arrogant, cocky, babyface Tanahashi makes possibly the biggest mistake by getting Minoru Suzuki in an octopus hold, or an abdominal stretch, and then playing the guitar on him. And I remember watching it going, oh, son, you done fucked up. Why would you do that?
It was just a bad decision. It's like saying to Garth that Tessa Blanchard is overrated. Just don't do it.
Just don't do it. Absolutely. I mean, he did it, and you could almost feel the entire of Ryogoku go, oh, that is an awful decision. Just go back and reassess your life choices, Tanner. And Suzuki fucking brutalized him, as you would expect.
There are some things you just do in wrestling. You don't steal someone's move without asking for permission. You don't no sell something you were meant to sell. You don't shoot, and you don't fuck about with Minoru Suzuki because he will take it to heart.
He will brutalize you and laugh doing it. And for portions of this match, you genuinely feared for Tanahashi. However, Tanahashi managed to rally after Suzuki had worked the arm, continually ripping off the tape from the elbow, really, really trying to break that arm, that elbow that clearly Tanahashi's had issues with for the entirety of his life. In my head, Tanahashi was born with medical tape on his bicep and his elbow. But Suzuki, again...
I remember a tape over time. It was like how you can't remember the time before Cesaro wore rock tape on his shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. I mean...
But like, logically, there was a time where that was the case.
You mentioned that. Is the best thing that happened in Wrestle Kingdom 12 not the Omega Jericho match? Not the phenomenal IWGP Junior Heavyweight Fatal 4-Way. Was the best thing that happened on Wrestle Kingdom 12 the fact that Suzuki got that fucking atrocious haircut? Because that hair is absolutely abysmal.
I quite liked it in the sense that, to be fair, when I first saw Suzuki, it was like the peroxide blonde hair.
From Wrestle Kingdom 9.
Yeah, it gets worse for Suzuki. But I like it. I kind of like how it's all like I can do whatever. Like, you know how on Instagram Suzuki would just post photos of the socks he's wearing?
I remember you mentioning it, yes.
Do you not follow him on Instagram? Do it.
I'm genuinely scared that if I follow him on Instagram, he'll know where I live and he'll come and attack me.
He is legitimately the most scary man in wrestling. But, he just posts photos of his socks. And, like, it's sort of like, well, I'm not going to... This is very strange, Minoru, but I'm not going to argue with you. That's what it's sort of like here. It's sort of like, this is... With the hair, it's like, it's very strange. I don't know why the fuck you'd have it. I think he just has it to prove that no one will fuck with him.
Maybe. But even so, good God.
It's sort of like how when a bouncer at a nightclub wears pink.
I don't think I've ever met a bouncer in a nightclub that wears pink.
Oh, well, to be fair, I walk up and down Sophia Street, and normally when I'm doing that, I'm quite drunk, so like I might just be misremembering.
You're right though, Chris. I don't think there were any false finishes.
And if there is, I will next week I will come on here and sing a soulful acoustic rendition of the I'm an Ass Man theme or something.
I'd love that. I want you to do that anyway. Tanahashi hits the first high fly flow onto the knee of Suzuki, which you felt the pain go through him, and that's all testament to Suzuki's selling. And then the second one, Tanahashi does eventually finish him off after hitting him with the sling blade and hitting him with that second high fly flow.
Second high flow, because he literally bolted it up because it's like, I don't know when I'm going to have enough space to do this again, so I need to do this now.
Yeah, exactly. And you felt that in Tanahashi. I need to put this away now because if it goes any longer, I am not going to be able to withstand the pressure, the brutality Suzuki's hitting me with. Now, this match got the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Match of the Year in 2012, as it should do, and the show itself won the Wrestling Observer Show of the Year. So this is seen as by a lot of people as that first sort of turning point towards, a better age.
It was Kingdom 7 after this one, wasn't it?
So we're looking at 2012.
That's 7.
Is that 7, 2013?
Yeah,
yes, because 15 is 9. Yeah. So this was sort of the time when New Japan was sort of getting itself out of the doldrums, out of the time when you had Nakanishi as champion. And yeah, you can tell here. You can really tell.
I'm gonna have to review one of Nakanishi's championship matches once, because I literally just want to see what it was like.
Well, maybe we'll put that on the show. Maybe we'll put that on the show next week.
No, not quite ready.
So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. We've reviewed these matches. The last match, Chris, are you giving it a 10?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think any wrestling is going to be quite as good after these 3 matches.
No, I mean, we have sort of spoilt it by giving all 3 matches.
It's super weird, because, of course, I've seen all these matches before, but, watching them, back to back to back is sort of oh, God, I miss all these things.
When you think that last week we had 3 9s and this week we've had 3 10s, I mean, okay, maybe we need to venture further afield or not pick the great matches.
To be fair, we've had basically just All Japan and New Japan so far, so I'm not putting any of those in the next call, because we need some different things.
Oh, please put an old All Japan match where I can just see people beating the shit out of each other.
Fine, maybe, but I'm going to find some Dragon Gate, some Joshi. It's an executive decision. We're doing some Joshi next time. I'm not hearing an argument.
Okay. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the Young Lion Cast this week. Thank you so much for listening. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter and on Facebook at Young Lioncast, and also at Podmania, because we are doing this, of course, through Podmania, which is mine and Chris's main podcast, with our friend Dear Garth. But next week I won't be here. I'm in New York, so I'm sorry, there won't be a Young Lioncast next week, unless Chris fancies doing one on his own. We will see. He probably won't. But
ooh, I could review a Stardom show.
You can review a Stardom show if you wish. But I won't be here. But you can subscribe to the podcast and download all of our old episodes on any podcast app. You can also go to the website, www.podmania.co.uk, to check out all of those podcasts and to check out all of the ratings of the matches that we gave and all of the ratings to the matches that we have watched in our match ratings archive. You can talk to me on Twitter at RealRobGoodwin, and Chris, they can find you on...
Well, at CandyChris97. I'm probably going to just start doing Stardom shit posting.
I think that's a great shout. I think you should do that. Tune in tomorrow, or on Saturday, I should say, for the Podmania. I don't know what on earth you and Garth are doing on Saturday.
I don't know what we're doing. He hasn't responded.
Well, okay, we will let you know. And then on Monday for another episode of our WWE 2K Universe mode. Thank you so much for listening, guys, and we'll talk to you guys again soon.